Okay, well, it's a little after 10 o'clock, but good morning to all the board members and thank you for attending the October 21st meeting of the Go Virginia Region 6 Board Meeting. Sarah, I guess we have to do a roll call. Is that correct?
Correct. I'll do one now. Monty Mason as proxy for Dr. Derek Aday.
Here.
John Anzavino.
Here.
Taryn Bryce Rowland. Renee Daniels. Jackie Davis.
Present.
Jan Urquhart. Val Folds.
Here.
Vernon Green Jr.
Present.
Joel Griffin.
Here.
Dr. Janet Gullickson. Lisa Hull.
Here.
Dr. Shannon Kennedy.
Here.
Kim McClellan.
Here.
Rob Cortell.
Here. Here.
Jeff Sabursky.
Here.
Lindsay Watson.
Here.
And Dr. Kimberly Young. All right, Chair, that is a quorum.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate that. I'd like to welcome Monty Mason, who is the proxy for this meeting for Dr. Aday down at Virginia Institute of Marine Sciences. We value the participation of the Institute, and Monty, please feel free to jump in and ask any questions during the course of the meeting. I know you're pretty fresh into this, but we welcome you, and we welcome all of our presenters as well. First item on the, public involvement. Anyone online who is signed up or anyone who has just come online who wishes to speak to the council on any of the issues that are addressed on our agenda. Sarah, do we have anybody signed up?
We do not.
Shocking, just shocking. Okay, is there anybody online who is part of our citizen catchment area that would like to speak? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Consent agenda includes the approval of the July 22nd, 2024 minutes. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda. Sorry, who? Okay, we have a motion and we have a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The first item up of substance is presentation from Billy Gamble at VHDCD for the Go Virginia State Board Policy 17, use of Go Virginia funds for healthcare training. So Billy, we welcome you back to the meeting. How are you?
Good. Glad to be here. Thanks for giving me time on the agenda to go through this. Yeah, this is just give everybody some background. This was I think something that a lot of regions wanted for some time. Traditionally, healthcare was not part of Go Virginia because Go Virginia focused mainly on what we call traded sector industries. So industries where majority of the revenues from those industries were going to be from outside the state. So the idea when Go Virginia was formalized was that they wanted to kind of increase the pie. And so we wanted to focus on industries where they're not so much kind of circulating within the community, but really kind of that focus is outside the state. And so those would be more of those industries where they would have a company would have the ability to really grow their base from outside the state. So that's kind of where we were traditionally with Go Virginia for the industries that were identified in all the regions' growth and diversification plan. So it really had to be kind of focused on that traded sector type industry. So manufacturing, cybersecurity, bioscience, stuff like that. But I think we got to a point where, a lot of the regions were, legitimately concerned about, being able to attract traded industry clusters or businesses when, they're having issues having healthcare services provided. So we developed about a year ago, there was some discussion around it, and we were tasked to develop a board policy around this. And so we issued this board policy, I believe, December of last year. And there haven't been too many. To date, there has nobody has put forward an application with healthcare. I think the regional talent strategy originally was contemplating that. They decided to take it off, and they're obviously coming forward with a kind of revised application. But to date, there hasn't been anybody that's gone through with this healthcare. I imagine we'll start seeing quite a few. But what I want to do here is just kind of go over kind of high level policy, kind of the lane for healthcare, and just kind of go through it. And please stop me if you guys have questions. I want this to be interactive. So just go ahead, and Sarah, if you can monitor who's got a question, just cut me off and we can kind of go from there if that works.
Yep,
Yep.
will do. And then
Yeah.
you can just let me know next slide whenever you're ready to move on.
Yeah, next slide. And Sarah, I think I have one slide that I duplicated, so probably I think it's like slide 5 and 6. Okay, so here's kind of the broad level board policies. Board policy 17. So there's basically 4 criteria defined that would be needed to satisfy to allow a regional council to pursue projects in Go Virginia for the healthcare industry sector. So the first one would be looking at kind of describing and documenting the lack of current healthcare services the region has, and how it's affected its ability to grow one or more of the industry clusters defined in their growth and diversification plan. So this is really looking at, hey, not that we need healthcare, but we need healthcare to help with these other industries that we've identified that are a priority for our region. So that's kind of the key. It's not really, hey, we need healthcare. It's like healthcare is adversely affecting our ability to attract these other and grow these other industries that we've identified. The second part, bullet 2 or sub bullet 2, we want to see the majority of the participating localities in that particular project. So, Region 6 has 3 sub-regions. So let's say that there's one, like Middle Peninsula is kind of the applicant. We would, and that's their kind of service area. So that would be, we want to make sure the majority of those localities in the Middle Pen are qualified as a geographical healthcare professional shortage area. And this is determined by the Health Resource and Service Administration. So there's a link that we have. We have some guidelines, and we have the addendum to a healthcare application that kind of goes through it. I will tell you right now, Region 6, for the most part, except for maybe Spotsylvania, Fredericksburg, maybe 1 or 2 other localities, most of the localities currently qualify as a geographical healthcare professional shortage area, which wouldn't shock anybody, I don't think, on this call. The other point would be, so the effort must be focused on expanding the pool of qualified workers in 1 or more of the occupations identified by Virginia High Demand Occupation List. And this is identified by Virginia Office of Education Economics, we call them VOE. They're housed at VEDP. They have some really interesting and cool data sets they developed over the last year. This is one of the first ones they were developed. And Sarah, do you think I could maybe share? Do you think it'd be useful to share the what that dashboard looks like?
Yeah, I shared it with the council in an email, but if you could pull it up and just kind of go through it, that would be very helpful.
I have it up right now. So let me do that. See if I can share this real quick. Okay, so let me do the first thing. So that talking about the healthcare professional service area, designated service area. So this is their dashboard. We would go to Virginia, and then we got to look it up by different counties. So I just chose Middlesex County as an example. We can choose all 3 of these disciplines. So primary care, dental health, mental health. Then we choose designated as the status, and then we choose all geographical HPSAs. And then here we can just see they're designated. So again, I don't want to spend too much time on this one because if we go through most of the localities in Region 6, they're going to be designated. Again, I think Fredericksburg might have some that are not the Fredericksburg area, but for the most part, Middle Penn and Northern Neck are going to be designated for the most part. Can everybody see this? This is the high demand occupation list. Okay. So this is the dashboard. So not only do we want to look that, hey, make sure these localities have critical shortages in healthcare, but we also want to make sure that whatever project is being put forward in Gary, Virginia, that it's really addressing a high demand occupation. So if they don't have the Gary, Virginia regions currently right now, but I looked it up by the Bay Consortium Workforce Board, which covers most of the region. Then we, under this VOE healthcare cluster, the drop-down menu is health science. And then we want to select these under this high demand occupation, high demand occupation by wages. So we can kind of see where the highest wages of these type of high industry healthcare occupations are. So we have medical and health service managers, dental hygienists, registered nurses, respiratory therapists. And let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. So you guys can kind of see these would be the types of occupations that if we are getting a workforce development proposal, it would need to address these critical high demand occupations to help grow the other industries that Region 6 has identified. I'll stop sharing that. Sarah, can you get back to the slide? Thank you. So those are like kind of the two. So number 2 is looking at the geographical healthcare professional shortage area. That's that second sub bullet. The third sub bullet is the VOE dashboard, looking at the high demand occupations. And then the last sub bullet there is really kind of looking at that there's not a sufficient capacity to train those types of workers for those occupations. So it wouldn't be that, hey, we just have all these high demand occupations. It would be, you want to make sure that you kind of scan the lay of the land of what training providers are currently out there and who's getting currently trained. And if the supply does not meet the demand, then that's where I think an application through Gary, Virginia would make sense. And you want to kind of address those gaps. So we want to make sure that it wouldn't be somebody where you have plenty of supply to train these type of workers. That wouldn't make sense, but it'd be like, hey, we've done a lay of the land. We have critical shortages here, and there's only these entities are addressing it, and the demand is way more than the supply. Next slide. So this is kind of going into the weeds with each. Again, I've kind of gone through this a little bit in my first slide, but it's really kind of working with the industry partners, working with your economic development folks, and them kind of saying, hey, we've had issues attracting these types of trade sector industries that the Region 6 has identified, and we're having difficulty in recruiting these businesses. So that's kind of where this is more of the, where we'd want to see a letter from the industry partners or from your economic developers saying, hey, we're having issues attracting and recruiting trade sector industries because of the lack of healthcare. Next slide. Again, geographical healthcare professional shortage area is the other thing that I just went over, so you can get the next one, Sarah. And then, yeah, there you go. Thank you. One back up. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Next one. Yeah, you got it right.
Hey, Billy, real quick. For the HPSAs, you may have mentioned this while you were going through it, but just to kind of clarify for the group, for an area to qualify, you would only need to meet qualification under one of those disciplines, correct? So health, mental.
Yes. Yes. That is correct. As long as one of them is designated, then you would qualify. Yep, that's a good question. And so this again goes into the more detail about the dashboard, the high demand occupation list, specific to health science. I think they're going to include. I think in the coming months they are going to include a region type by Go Virginia, but right now your best way to do it is by the workforce investment boards. So next one. One more. And so again, I think here we really want to focus on the capacity, the base level capacity to train workers. So making sure that there's a demand, given the current supply and the current demand, that there is a gap and there is a need to create, maybe there's a pilot program, maybe they want to expand a current program and scale it up a little bit. But that's just number 4, I think, is critical. It's not saying that you have high demand occupations or that your localities are in these shortage areas, but that also there's a gap in the supply and demand of healthcare workers. So that is the presentation. I'll leave it for questions if anybody has any.
Questions.
Yeah, Jeff, you've got a question?
Yeah, just quick one, Billy. One, I applaud you guys for opening this up, making it a little bit broader than it was before. Second, is there overlap with, say, Virginia Department of Health grants or something? Is there like a intersection here? I understand the 4 points that we need to meet that for one to be eligible under the Go Virginia program. Just wondering.
We worked with Virginia. We worked with the Virginia Department of Health to and that's why we came to that to the dashboard, the geographic healthcare professional shortage area, and that's something that they use too. So we wanted to be consistent. I would say, I think we would encourage that. Now, Go Virginia, we can't use state funds. So, like, if you had a grant from them, we wouldn't be able to leverage that as match. But I don't think that we would have any issues if there was some additional resources on the table from another state grant program. I think we would encourage that. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Joel, you've got a question?
Yes, thank you. So in the Stafford, Spotsylvania, Caroline, King George part of the region, we have a shortfall, but it's not from a lack of qualified people. It's that we just can't train them fast enough. You've got Spotsy Regional Hospital, Mary Washington Hospital, and the VA hospital, which is set to open. Projections are somewhere between 700 to 900 nurses will be needed to cover all of the open positions between those hospitals, and somewhere close to, I think, 300 doctors, not to mention all of the physicians' offices and OT, PT support staff that are needed. So does that qualify under the, supply demand sort of formula?
Well, it'd have to be those occupations that are listed. So I don't think doctors would be part of those high demand occupations. So I think I'll bring it back up. I'm looking, I think some of the ones you mentioned would be on here. The therapists, respiratory therapists, registered nurses, dental hygienists, medical and health service managers, There's cardiovascular technologists and technicians. So I think it would have to be specific to the types of occupations that you're looking at, and then we need to, of course, make sure that the majority of those of the population in those localities are designated.
I believe Rob also had a question in the chat.
Yeah. Just kind of an observation, Billy, and I know it's not your, well, A, it's good council has done this. B, the way they did it makes it extremely difficult to get the money. C, I know that's because they were wriggling and squirming about how to put healthcare under the, the original structural mandates of what Go Virginia is supposed to do. And I really find that kind of short-sighted on the part of the council, the big council. The reality is healthcare is an industry, and if it's good, it can be traded. And, so I don't want to relitigate whether traded is the right way for these people to be thinking about it. But I appreciate the fact that they gave us a little wiggle room here, but I don't appreciate the fact that they just didn't address it straight on and allow people to develop an industry in the region. I just think that's incredibly short-sighted. And the consequence of that is that this is a very hard thing for anybody to apply for and do a grant and get the money to fix a problem, which is all over the state, particularly in rural areas like ours. An observation, and hopefully you will carry it back to the powers that be.
I absolutely will. I hear you. But I do think we have a specific lane for healthcare, and I think it's laid out. And as long as we can address these specific occupations and these critical shortage areas, it should be pretty easy.
I would argue that if a place like Matthews or Gloucester or Yorktown or someplace wanted to develop a healthcare industry that would be relevant to people offshore, across the Eastern Shore, whatever the hell, that they ought to be able to do it, just like they can do sites and everything else for every other industry they want to bring in. And that's off the table because of the way this is structured, in people's minds. So,
they did it. But, yeah, and I would push back a little bit on that because I think the rurals actually are more positioned than urban areas to apply for funding for healthcare right now because of they're all critically critical shortage areas right now. So but I will say one thing on the back end. Just this is you guys all. Not everybody sees this on the back end. Ian, myself, and Sarah, we work through kind of a lot of the details and trying to get something. If there's some questions about, hey, how can we get this application through? We kind of work through the details. But the idea was that there was supposed to be a specific lane for healthcare in these high demand occupations if there's a gap. And, we're going to support you guys as much as we can, given the framework of the policy that was passed. And I will certainly pass on your comments.
Yeah.
Billy, I would echo Rob's comments. Healthcare providers in rural areas are in short supply of any type, and support personnel are in shorter supply. And so we need to make it as easy as possible. It's good that the Commonwealth is allowing us to do this through the Growth and Opportunities Program, but we need to make it as simple as possible. And of course, the data supports, the Middle Peninsula and Northern Neck with a shortage in a number of different vocations, but we've just got, I don't know, the state needs to come to grips with this, as does everybody else, because healthcare in rural areas is just hard to get. And we don't seem to be filling the gap. Ian, I have a question for you, and Sarah, I have a question for you. Do we need to adjust the plan, the strategic plan for this in our objectives?
For our growth and diversification plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll actually mention this at the end of the meeting. We're going to be doing so we have to do a larger update to our G&D plan, a smaller update, which we did last year. Going into 2025, we'll need to do a large update. So none of our G&D plans up to this point mention healthcare, so we will have to include some information around that.
Okay, good. Okay. Additional questions for Billy on the topic? For Ian or Sarah? Any additional discussion from the board? Okay, well, we'll move on to new business. And the first order of new business is discussion about appointee to a state regional council committee. As board members may recall, we had the Joint Legislative Audit Review Commission, that's JLARC for short, report that was prepared about concerning Go Virginia and the interaction between the state board, the success of the program, weaknesses, strengths of the program, that was issued, I guess, late last year. And what has been identified is there needs to be more participation by the regional councils. So we received an email from some folks who are coordinating an effort to develop an input committee for the state board. We received this on October the 9th. Ian and I immediately talked about it. I wanted to have a conversation with Jeff about this as well. Because of a holiday, Columbus Indigenous Peoples Day, we had to, we weren't able to get together until October the 15th. And when we discussed this, I think it's just the best idea because we need to recruit a board member, an active board member, to attend a meeting to help get this structured. This is actually a structural meeting that we're being requested to appoint an individual to, and this person could become the permanent liaison to this state committee, which would be comprised, as I understand it, of all the regional councils. We don't have any idea about how frequently this committee would meet, other than we know that the kickoff is on November 7th over somewhere in the Shenandoah Valley, which is a pretty long valley and it's pretty undefined. But they had asked us for an appointment. And again, we received this on October 9th. They wanted something on October 18th, which I thought was a pretty short timeline, given the fact that all of the board members here have they have requirements on their time and competing interests in other activities like your real day jobs, and that this is a volunteer effort. So I wanted to place this on the agenda to have a discussion about it, to see if there was a board member who was willing to come forward and travel over to the Valley on November the 7th for a 10 o'clock to noon meeting to help structure this group and get it kicked off. So Ian, do you want to add anything to that? Jeff, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you're spot on. I will just say, unfortunately, and Billy, I don't put you on the spot, but if you have any additional insight, I do think it's kind of tough now. So Leah Freemow, who's on the state board, is kind of spearheading this. This will be a committee of the state board, so the meetings will be public meetings, just like our meetings. And at this point, I think that things are still kind of conceptual, but there will be structure to these meetings as the group starts to build. The first meetings in person, I don't know what the format of the meetings will be. After that, there's really no central location in Virginia other than, I guess you could argue Richmond, but coming from Southwest Virginia, that's still quite far. So I don't know what the structure of the meetings are going to be in the future in terms of in-person, virtual. Don't totally know what the time commitment is. So that's kind of where we are. The person who goes to this first meeting won't necessarily be the person who kind of carries the torch moving forward. But yeah, that's kind of where we are. Jeff, I don't know if you had anything to add to that.
No, you have already said it, but the fact that there wasn't a Zoom option for organizational meeting, and it seemed, for both John and myself, it'd be, 3.5 hours up, 3.5 hours back for a 2-hour organizational meeting. I know it has to be done, but I think maybe a little more leeway from the state board to maybe make it a Zoom meeting or something would be beneficial. But it's just too big a lift for many people, but if somebody can go, we would love that.
Billy, do you have any thoughts on any of this? Do you have any insight?
So I will not be at that meeting. Shara Gibson and Cody Anderson will be staffing it with Leah Freemal. I was getting ready to send a message right now to see if there was a virtual option. Yeah, it's the way FOIA laws are. I think, don't quote me on, and I don't want to get ahead of kind of what Leah's been communicating. She is interested in doing the kickoff there in the Fredericksburg area, in the Shenandoah Valley area. And we have to start off with a physical in-person meeting. Now, the council members are not actually on the committee, but it's state board members kind of having work. I think the idea is that Leah wanted to see people face to face and kind of get their thoughts of how we can improve the program, understand everybody's insights into maybe ways we can improve. So I think she wanted to have an in-person to start off, and you have to have an in-person to start off according to FOIA laws. But with that being said, is there an option for a hybrid virtual option? I don't know. I can certainly find out. I'll pass along that information because I hear you guys.
Rob, you had some thoughts on this, I think.
Yeah.
I can see your
Yeah,
hand.
I do. I have some thoughts and some questions, and for the record, if I were here, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I have plenty of reasons I can use to go over to the Shenandoah. But unfortunately, I'll be on an airplane coming back from Paris all day long. And had you known, Jan, I would have come up a day earlier to do it. But of course, as you say, some of us have schedules. So I think the short notice is unfortunate. I really am wondering about the structure, and I continually am unimpressed by the record of the state board vice the regional councils. I really am. There's no effort at the level of the board to make it easy or easier to engage. Yes, this is a big state, but that's about as extreme a distance as you can get from more people and more regions as possible. Frankly, Fredericksburg, which I find to be a pain because it's 2 hours away, would be easier for most people across the state. So I don't know if they made any effort to try to do that, but that is a problem. Number two, I don't understand how they could say we're going to do this without telling people what the time commitment is and what they expect it to do and what that, how it's going to interact with the big boy board. And number three, does this group have any power, or is it just something to say, attaboy, yeah, thank you for your opinion? Because in my mind, that's probably what it is. If they really wanted the regional people, more regional involvement, they'd put someone from every region on the state board. It's a big board, it doesn't matter. But I don't know that they've done that either. Ian, you and I have talked about that. So I think it's lovely that they're doing it. And Billy, this is not aimed at you, nor was the last point either. Okay, I know you do a great job. You do what you need to do, and you're between many masters, and I'm sure there's a reason. There's a reason for everything. But I am continually unimpressed by the way the state board deals with the regions, and this is another good example of that.
If I could just say one thing about so the bylaws will not allow us to have council members on this committee. It has to be members from the state board. That's in code. That's nothing that we can.
Wait, no, wait. I thought you said this is for regional people.
It is. But the committee, the actual makeup of the committee is made up of a few state board members to go out to different parts of the state to engage with regional council leadership.
So they want the regional council people to be in a meeting with them, and they have no power.
Well, I think I think the idea was to listen to folks' concerns and figure out how to improve it, because currently the structure is that it's a state board meeting where we talk through regular business, and these types of issues are not typically on the agenda just because of the time constraint of 2 hours. So I think they're going to develop the cadence, how often that is, if it's twice a year, if it's 4 times a year, where it makes sense to meet. I think all these are good questions, and I would honestly bring them up if there's representation from the Region 6 Council at this meeting on November 7th.
So the way I read that is they have graciously decided to descend from on high, listen to us. So
I think they generally, Rob, I think they generally want to hear what everybody has to say. I mean, I think that's the idea.
Well, you know, you could do that at a board meeting, which is public. And, you know, again, I think they go halfway on these things, and they don't want to cede power, and they don't want to, frankly, I think that the regions are a pain in the butt to them. So.
Yeah, and Billy, I would say too, the email that we received from Leah was pretty unclear. It seemed like they were organizing a separate committee to advise the state board.
Yeah, that's what I just heard out of you, basically, Jan.
Yeah, and Ian, did I miss the boat on that? Or Jeff?
That's the way I read it.
And Jeff read it the same way. So, you know, we're a little bit confused over here. Maybe it's just that we're from down in the Middle Peninsula and Northern Neck. I don't know, but fact of the matter is, it was pretty unclear. But with all that aside, it's important to give the state board input. This may be a little bit gratuitous on their part, but at least they're reaching out to the regions for the first time. And I agree with Rob's comments completely. I don't disagree with you, Rob, at all. Having dealt with a number of state agencies throughout my career. But the fact of the matter is we have an opportunity.
Yeah.
Jeff and I have talked about either he or I attending. He can't. I might be able to, but are there any other board members that are a little bit closer to the Shenandoah Valley who we could designate to attend this meeting and bring back a report to our board about how this is all going to be framed and what input you've provided? I'll open it up for any volunteers that wish to do this. And I know it's extremely vague, and I know it's an unknown at this time, but we do know the date and we do know the time frame. It's November 7th from 10 to 12 over somewhere in the Shenandoah Valley.
Yeah.
Anybody have a desire to serve this board and participate in that program? And Rob, I appreciate your desire to participate, but also understand your time constraints because the schedule you just laid out for us before the meeting is just brutal.
Well, and I would have changed it had I known.
Yep.
I could have done the one day, but.
Mr. Chair, before you get folks to respond to you, I got some information. There will be a virtual option.
Oh,
a virtual link.
Okay. Well, that's great news. Thank you, Billy. That was unclear as well. It said an in-person meeting. Okay. So with that said, do we have any board members who wish to participate from 10 to 12 on November 7th and provide input to the state board in conjunction with this committee as far as frequency of meetings, what the committee will do, how they will advise the state board? Joel, I see your hand up.
Yeah, yes, sir. Mr. Chair, given that it's a virtual option, if you're able to attend, I think that sends a very clear message of how important it is to us as Region 6. But I would also ask that between now and then, if we could maybe send some comments or bullet points to Ian and Sarah to sort of have a collective voice of what the priorities are, and as well as to have a leave behind for those state board members who are going to be on their listening tour.
Good points, Joel. I appreciate that. Ian, Sarah, can you get together an email to the entire board and get it out with a request for a general sense of what we need to make comments to the state board at this November 7th meeting? And since it is a virtual meeting, I'll be happy to attend because I've got another commitment later in the day that day.
Sure. Yeah, we can absolutely do that.
Okay, Billy, thank you so much for clearing that up because it's not mentioned in the email at all. It says an in-person meeting over in the valley, and it's just really unclear. We want to participate as a region. We value our relationship with the state board, and we want to strengthen it. But the fact of the matter is, I don't believe it's been a very strong relationship throughout the state based upon what I've heard from other board members. Okay, so
Chairman?
I will, yes,
Hi, it's Monty. May I ask a question?
yes, please.
Thank you, sir. So the previous presentation tied directly to recommendation 6 from the JLARC report. And, you know, this sounds like it is doing the same. Can someone point me to the recommendation that this regional council is attempting to fulfill? Or maybe it's not. I mean.
Yeah, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but we can. Do you have the report? I was going to offer it for us to
I'm
send
looking at it.
the
That's
JLARC
that's
report
fine.
up to you, or we can send you the Cliff Notes version of the report. Be more than happy
No,
to do
no,
that after the meeting.
No,
Okay.
I'm looking at it. Thanks, and that's why I ask. I mean, because, you know, the world is filled with groups trying to react to what JLARC said last year. And whether we're ever able to really make it work or not is always the challenge. You know, the previous presentation was great. I don't know how you make that work, but it is directly tied to the healthcare recommendation that seemed to be a whole. This one, I can't really seem to match it up with a recommendation. I'm just trying to figure out what they were saying we should try to accomplish and how this new commission did it. So, thank you.
Okay, so any additional discussion on this particular item? All right, well, board members, please expect to receive an email from Sarah and/or Ian in the near future. Provide your input by the designated date. I will consolidate that, those bits of information, comments, and I'll convey them to the state board along with any other comments that we conjure up, okay? Thanks. I think this was a good discussion, and Billy, I appreciate all your help on this. We really do. Okay, moving along, we're moving into action items for application discussion and determination. And the first one up is the Regional Talent Implementation application from the Bay Consortium. This is a resubmission, and so I'll let Jackie and Ian talk about that, provide us a brief on how this is different than the original application that our board has approved already and submitted to the state board.
But before you get into it, I'll just mention the scope of this project. I said in the email I sent to you guys on Friday, but the scope of the project was narrowed based on feedback from the state board at their September meeting. The project was deferred. That's why it's being resubmitted. The budget has been reduced to $377,000 from about $536,000. And the scope is kind of more narrowly focusing on formalizing the sector partnerships, which are really kind of the foundation for informing the workforce system about companies' needs in the region. So the project will focus on IT, manufacturing, and aquaculture. And then the other piece of that are these business toolkits that are really kind of a resource to serve as a compilation of all workforce development resources in the region. But then also kind of help to provide some best practices on an industry specific level for hiring, recruiting, onboarding, and retaining folks. So that's kind of the foundation for this. And Jackie, I'll let you add anything to that.
I really don't have anything to add. Ian, you covered it all. It's really just focusing on those sector partnerships and the board taking the role as a system integrator in the region and coordinating those efforts in the region. And those employer toolkits is one of the other parts of it.
If board members don't recall, we had a pretty, we had a broad discussion about this application in the past. because it is a resubmission, we did not, Ian and Sarah did not run it by the committee for workforce development review again. So does any board member have any questions about the intent of the application or and it's the resubmission?
I mean, John, I guess
Jeff?
obvious, but just to make sure I'm clear on it, the reason for, I mean, we approved it up. It was too broad. Is that the consensus? And so what we've come back with a narrower scope that is more aligned to what the state board's looking at. Is that
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
We took directives from DHCD leadership and designed this grant.
So I guess, is there an iterative moment separate from this? You know, what would we do differently next time so we're not in the, denial resubmission mode after we get the approval for this? That might be worthy of a little discussion. But I think it's a good I thought it was a good application before. I think it's a good application now.
Any additional questions concerning the application, comments concerning the application? Well, hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to forward to Ian. Okay, we've got a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, is that from Jeff?
Yep.
Okay, we
And
have a motion.
We do
and
need a roll call vote for this.
Okay. All right, Sarah, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Monty Mason,
Aye.
John Anzavino,
Yes.
Renee Daniels. I believe I saw her come on. Renee. Okay, Renee, we can't hear you, but if you want to put your vote in the chat, I can record it. Jackie.
Abstain.
All right, Val Folds,
Yes.
Vernon Green Jr.,
Yes.
Joel Griffin,
Yes.
Lisa Hull,
Yes.
Dr. Shannon Kennedy.
So question, do I still need to abstain from this? We've changed it. I don't know that it impacts us, Jackie.
Education is a part of it, but I don't think you're a direct part of it. If that makes
I didn't think
sense.
so anymore either. So yep. I vote
Kim-
yes.
Kim McClellan,
Yes.
Rob Cortell,
Yes.
Jeff Sapersky,
Yes.
Lindsay Watson.
Yes.
That's unanimous with one abstention.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. Okay, the next application for the board's review is the Virginia Black Chamber of Commerce Economic Business Empowerment Accelerator Implementation Application. And we have, is Ernisha on the call?
Yes.
Good morning, Ernisha. How are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
And Jeff and I reviewed this application. So just to let you know that this has been reviewed by a couple of board members already. So Ernisha, why don't you tell us a little bit about this application? And, Ian will also be providing us some information from the council's perspective after your presentation, okay?
Okay. Sarah, I think you have to go to the first slide. Okay, thank you. So thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity to present today. This program is designed to address critical barriers faced by small businesses in Virginia and in the region, especially in minority communities, by providing access to skills, resources, and networks necessary for sustainable growth. Could you go to the next slide? Over the next 2 years, we aim to serve 120 businesses through 6 cohorts, emphasizing key Go Virginia 6 priority industry clusters, such as distribution logistics, manufacturing, professional, scientific, and technical services, and agriculture. Before diving into the details of the Expanding Business Ecosystem Accelerator Program, I just want to take a moment to just introduce the organization, which is the Virginia Black Chamber of Commerce. We were founded to serve as a voice of resource for minority-owned businesses and entrepreneurs throughout the state of Virginia. We're committed to advocating for economic equity and providing opportunities that empower minority-owned businesses to thrive in an increasingly competitive marketplace. Our chamber plays a vital role in fostering an inclusive business ecosystem by offering a wide range of resources and services. This business accelerator is an extension of the mission. By focusing on key areas like capital readiness, government contracting, and workforce development, we are giving small business owners the tools they need to overcome the barriers and achieve long-term success. So this slide is the program overview. Small businesses are the backbone of Virginia's economy, representing 99.5% of all businesses and employing nearly half of the private sector workforce. However, many small businesses struggle to secure funding, navigate government contracts, and expand their operations. So this accelerator program is our solution to those challenges. We're creating an ecosystem that fosters sustainable growth by focusing on capital readiness, government contracting, and workforce development. This program is not just about sustaining, it's about giving small businesses the tools to thrive in competitive markets. Our program is built around 6 cohorts, and they will be implemented over 2 years. We aim to enhance the entrepreneurial capabilities of participants by providing them with actionable business strategies. Second, we will facilitate access to capital, offering tailored support to help businesses secure the funding they need to grow. Third, we will help participants expand their market reach through targeted marketing strategies and digital transformation. This program provides in-depth guidance on navigating government contracts, which will be the game changer for many businesses. We will also focus on workforce development, ensuring participants can attract and retain skilled workforce. Finally, these efforts align to foster economic development, create jobs, and empower underserved communities. The structure of the EBE program is designed for long-term impact. So over the 2 years, we will commit to 6 cohorts, each lasting 10 weeks. These cohorts will cover essential business topics like financial management, marketing, and government contracting. Participants will receive a personalized mentorship tailored to their industry and business growth stage. In addition, our program includes networking events that connect participants with business leaders and investors. This structure ensures that businesses not only gain practical knowledge, but also form valuable relationships that will help them grow. Next slide. To understand the significance of this business accelerator, it's essential to first recognize the challenges facing small businesses in the region. Despite their critical role, many of these businesses face significant challenges that hinder growth and long-term success. According to a recent survey of small businesses, 70% of small businesses in Virginia struggle to secure funding and navigate complex government procurement processes. These barriers prevent businesses from scaling, innovating, and creating high-wage jobs. In Region 6, Go Virginia Region 6, which includes a mix of urban centers and rural areas, these challenges are particularly pronounced. The region has experienced slower growth in high-wage job creation, largely due to the limited availability of scalable entrepreneurship support systems. This situation creates economic disparities that prevent the region from reaching its full potential. The Accelerator program is designed to directly address these disparities by equipping entrepreneurs with the skills, resources, and networks they need to overcome these obstacles. So we are empowering small businesses to achieve sustainable growth. Next slide. Before we cover the details of our full implementation program, I'd like to highlight the success of the pilot program that laid the foundation for this business accelerator. The pilot program was funded by Go Virginia Region 6. It was a critical testing ground that allowed us to refine our approach and ensure effectiveness in supporting small businesses. The pilot program focused on key areas such as strategic business management, financial planning, marketing essentials, and government contracting. Through this process, we learned a great deal about the needs of the small businesses. The participants expressed a preference for hands-on instructor-led workshops, which provided real-time feedback and practical guidance. The insight led us to prioritize interactive sessions in the expanded program, supported by digital tools and resources to enhance accessibility. One of the most Impactful components of the pilot was the tailored mentorship provided to each participant. We did partner with UMW SBSD to provide mentorship in addition to industry leaders. Feedback showed that personalized one-on-one coaching made a significant difference in helping entrepreneurs navigate their unique challenges. The pilot also demonstrated the value of continuous engagement. Participants wanted more than just short-term support. They needed ongoing mentorship and networking opportunities to help them maintain momentum after the program. Another key success of the pilot was the strength of our strategic partners. So we have formalized relationships with organizations like the Minority Business Development Agency through their Capital Readiness Program, local economic development authorities, and the University of Mary Washington Small Business Development Center. These partnerships brought immense value to the program by offering participants additional expertise, resources, and opportunities for growth. By building on the pilot success, we're confident that this EBE Business Accelerator will replicate and expand on the positive outcomes. So just as you can see on the slide, we had a goal of 25 businesses engaged and served, and we had 20 businesses engaged and served, all of which had successful mentorships. Next slide. These are program pilot success stories. So we have Joyce Delight out of Stafford, Virginia. She obtained a contract with a commercial kitchen. She won a $1,500 grant. She went from having a cooler to now having a mobile fridge, which you can see in this picture. And her business expansion increased her ability to manufacture pre-packaged baked goods. So her increased visibility and marketing assets also increased her overall revenue. Then we have Accurate Bookkeeping from Fredericksburg, Virginia. He was a new business. He created his business February 2024, registered in the city of Fredericksburg. He has already began obtaining contracts with small business owners. He has a refined marketing plan, and he received, in the picture you can see he has a completed strategic business plan. Next slide. So the program objectives of the program, we have 6 objectives: enhance entrepreneurial capabilities, facilitate access to capital, expand market research, support success in government contracting, promote workforce development, and foster economic development and job creation. Next slide. The program professional team is going to be myself, Tracy Hall, where she specializes in operations as well as project management. Travis Thompson, he will be the fiscal grant manager, which was something that we learned from the last grant, that we do need someone to manage the grant. And then Dr. Gabriel Legend, and he will help with program advisement. Next slide. All right, the budget overview. The total budget for the program is $535,715. We are asking for $300,000 from Go Virginia Region 6, which will be used effectively to maximize impact. So the budget includes salaries for program management, facilitators for workshop, space rental, marketing, session materials. We've secured matching funds from local government entities and private sector investments to ensure the sustainability and reach of the program. Our financial strategy is designed to deliver significant economic returns, not in just short term, but for the years to come. Part of the funds, that's okay, Sarah. Part of the funds will be reserved for program evaluation and reporting as well. The $300,000 in Go Virginia funds is the foundation upon which we will build the program. Next slide. So the matching funds, we do have the 2-to-1 match at $155,000, with 20% being local match of both cash and in-kind contributions. The local match contributions totaling $45,000 represent a collaborative commitment from local governments such as Spotsylvania County Economic Development, Fredericksburg City, and Stafford County Economic Development. The local match funds will be used to complement and enhance the resources provided by Go Virginia. These contributions will support several critical areas, including staffing, expanding services, and enhancing outreach efforts. Local match funds will also enable us to expand our outreach efforts. We also received match efforts from Fredericksburg Regional Alliance, UMW SBDC in kind, and the Rivers Region Entrepreneurial System, which is also in kind sponsorship, in kind contribution. Next slide. The program wouldn't be possible without the strong partnerships we've built with our advisory board members. So these individuals will provide expertise ongoing for the next 2 years that enrich the program's offerings. Their involvement ensures that participants receive support from leaders across various sectors, giving them access to a network of professionals committed to their success. So we have Susan Ball, Director of University of Mary Washington. Her biggest contribution will be the mentorship piece, as well as reinforcing what is taught in the accelerator. Dr. Shoshana Gray and Tina Lance from Germanna Community College. The college has given a $10,000 sponsorship, as well as they will be on the advisory board to help with regards to workforce development. We have Kevin Marshall, Business Development Manager at Spotsylvania Economic Development, Mike Perillo, Executive Director for Rivers Region Entrepreneurial System, and Savannah Winbush, Business Development Manager at Stafford Economic Development. Next slide. The expected outcomes. We have clear, measurable outcomes for this program. Over 2 years, we expect to serve 120 businesses, help create 18 full-time jobs, and force the expansion of participating businesses. In addition, we anticipate the creation of 10 new businesses and the raising of $30,000 in total funds by the participating businesses. The last cohort raised, I believe, $10,000. These outcomes will contribute directly to the pilot cohort, I apologize. These outcomes will contribute directly to the economic development of the region and demonstrate the power of the accelerator. Next slide. Curriculum overview. So this is the overview of the curriculum. We will have 10 workshops. They will include the business model canvas, government contracting, strategic marketing, finance probability and sustainability, sales and pitching your business, balancing business and self-care, capital readiness, part 1 and 2, optimizing operations, which will focus on software programs, and workforce development. Some of our facilitators are experts in the industry. We do have a professor, Dr. Curtis Merriweather from Duke University. He will be teaching government contracting. We have JP Morgan Chase Business will be teaching capital readiness. We have a licensed clinical social worker who will be teaching balanced business and self-care. And those are just a few examples of the facilitators that we have who have partnered with us on this program. Next slide. Sustainability is the heart of the program. So beyond the initial 2-year funding period, we plan to generate revenue through fee-based workshops, tiered participant membership options, and leveraging long-term partnerships. So we will be applying for grants on the federal, state, and private level to complement our existing funding. We're also going to develop a plan with the advisory board where this program will have a fee attached to it for business owners to enroll after these next 2 years. Next slide. Letters of support. We have received letters of support from various partners, and that is Dominion Energy, Fredericksburg Regional Alliance, Germanna Community College, Virginia Commonwealth University, City of Fredericksburg, Rivers Region Entrepreneur Ecosystem, University of Mary Washington SBDC, Stafford Economic Development, Spotsylvania County Economic Development, a Stafford Local Business Visioneer IT, another Stafford Business Sisters with Voices, and a Fredericksburg Business Accurate Bookkeeping. Next slide. Thank you. Through the targeted support, expert guidance, and strong partnerships, we are helping entrepreneurs overcome barriers and achieve lasting success. I want to thank you for your time and attention, and I am now happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Board members, do we have questions for Anisha? As I mentioned, Jeff and I, along with Ian, reviewed the application and found it to be extremely complete, and we're recommending approval as a committee who reviewed it. Ian, do we need to add anything in the discussion concerning the application? Is there anything that Bernicia missed or that we should, at the board, should be aware of that we haven't touched on in the board package?
No, the only thing I would add to that is we did share the application with DHCD, and incorporated their comments as well.
So we can expect that we kick this up to DHCD and onto the board that it will probably receive a favorable overview, favorable response, correct?
Well,
Way to
we
put 'em on
hope.
the spot, John.
I can't.
Yeah, is Billy still on the call? We're trying to have some fun here, I guess, because the state board is an uncertain.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. Hey, I will say one thing. I did. We provided some feedback on the pre-application, and it seems like it's in a really good spot. I can't make any predictions. I mean, so the application gets submitted to DHCD, then we organize a work group. So it's made up of typically no more than 2 board members and about 2 subject matter experts. So we're coordinating those now to. We kind of have to wait till we figure out how many applications we get, and then we can coordinate all that. But so it has to go through the application work group, and then they make a recommendation to the state board. But it's hard to, without seeing the full application. And I will say I'm based on what Ian told me, they incorporated the feedback. It seems like it's in a good spot. I think those outcomes are very realistic. We'll just kind of take it on the merit and let it go through the process. And I don't have any reservations, but I can't predict what folks are going to say.
Thank you, Billy. Rob, you've got your hand up.
Yeah. Just a kind of a quick question. So one of the things that caught my ear is that a lot of this is around how to do government contracting. So I assume most of these applicants are service businesses and retail. Is that correct? It's not like high tech that VIPSI would serve or something like that.
We have had high tech businesses in the pilot in each of the 2 cohorts, so it will be open to them. However, even transportation and logistics, we have a few members who are interested in the program for that purpose as well.
Yeah. And so when you get that, and this is sort of a broad question, how are you coordinating with other state opportunities like VIPSI or federal opportunities like SBA, which has offices around Virginia?
So we have relationships with the SBA, the SBSD, and even when we say government contracting, like Richmond International Airport, we work with them closely. They have their own certification program as well. So we are creating partnerships with various government entities in order to ensure that our participants can learn how to navigate government contracting, whether that's as a prime or as a sub.
So, and they have to be registered, certain registration numbers and all of that kind of stuff too. Well,
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the federal side. And what about other state agencies?
On the state agency level, we are working with SWAM certifications, getting a lot of the businesses SWAM certified. This year, Learn as an organization, we've had over 250 businesses participate in SWAM certification workshops. And once they go through that, what we're doing is we are going to start building relationships with primes in order to see if some of the businesses and those who graduate from the accelerator can learn how to do teaming or become subs on the contracts.
And so, like on high-tech businesses, there are numerous kinds of other accelerators in Richmond. And the agency on which I sit, VIPSI, gives out venture capital and stuff like that. Are you in touch with them or what?
No, we are not, but we can certainly get in touch with them.
Well, you should be. And we also have a program for $50,000 grants and sort of pre-equity to underserved minorities. underserved.
Rob, if I can, real quick, sorry to interrupt you, but context around VIPSI. So we've reached out to Conway about this project. So he's aware of this project. And the idea is that, you know, in addition to some of the federal agencies that were mentioned, the Minority Business Development Agency as part of SBA, they would be supportive, particularly in helping companies, the high-tech companies you mentioned, for their kind of off-road from this accelerator. But in terms of formal participation with the projects, Conway is typically on the state review group.
Yeah.
So when we have an entrepreneurship application come in, they're kind of a little hands off in that process because of that.
Yeah, but you made the point, and this is where you know, creating a business is a journey. You know, it goes from having an idea to starting off to doing this, to doing it, and tech in particular is a journey. And you know, one of the things that we've tried to do at VIPSI is actually create specific funding streams for different aspects and support for different aspects. So I think what I just heard you say is he would be made aware of businesses in this program that might be VIPSI participants at some point. And there's a connection, so you all make him aware. Is that right, or what?
I would defer to Ernisha, but that generally is my understanding.
So yes, I did speak. I had a great meeting with Conway, and we will have recurring meetings in the future. But as Ian said, as of right now, there was nothing formally that could be developed between us because he was very clear that he sits on the state board, and it would be.
Well, which board is he sitting on?
So he's not on the board, but typically when there's an entrepreneurship related project, VIPSI, typically Conway, is on the review group that provides a recommendation to the state board as to the action they should take on an application.
So, okay. I think that's a little vague, but one of my concerns is that I just think there are lots and lots of programs, and I just am always concerned about the handoffs and the coordination and the awareness of and how that, you know, that information gets transmitted between organizations. And I think, you know, frankly, the state's not very good at it, but they're trying to get better. So I'm glad to hear Conway is involved, and he is everywhere all the time. So he's a great resource.
Well, the thing that I'll say is, I guess, kind of a tangent to this application discussion, but related to what you're alluding to. I think that we, and that doesn't get at like anybody's commitment to Region 6 from the VIPSI perspective, but we over time have made efforts to try to include VIPSI more and more in the conversations as we, from the Go Virginia funding perspective, start to support more entrepreneurial ecosystem related projects. So I think that has not bore as much fruit as we would hope, but you know, we do include them in all these conversations. So
okay. Yeah, thanks, and nice presentation.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from board members, comments from the board in conjunction with the application? Ernisha, that was a good presentation. With that said, Jeff, you're one of the members of the review committee. Do you have any recommendation as far as moving this forward?
I'd move approval, John.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to move the application forward for the VBCC Economic Business Empowerment Accelerator Implementation application. Is this a roll call, Sarah?
Yes, I'll do the roll
Okay,
call
we have a
now.
motion and a second. So will you call the roll, please?
Yes. Monty Mason,
Aye.
John Anzavino,
Aye.
Renee Daniels, Okay, I see you. Renee, for the record, is giving a thumbs up. Renee, if you could just put that in the chat for me for the record, that'd be great. Jackie Davis,
Aye.
Val Folds,
Aye.
Vernon Green Jr.,
Aye.
Joel Griffin,
Aye.
Lisa Hull,
Aye.
Dr. Shannon Kennedy,
Aye.
Kim McClellan,
Aye.
Rob Cortell,
Aye.
Jeff Sapersky,
Aye.
and Lindsay Watson.
Aye.
That is unanimous.
All right, thank you, Sarah, appreciate that. And thank you, Ernisha. This will be forwarded on to the state board with our recommendation for approval.
Thank you.
The next item up on the agenda is the nominating committee report, which is an action item. We have 3 folks to consider, and we have a report from Kim McClellan.
Yes, thanks, John. Good morning, everybody. The nominating committee is coming to you with 3 individuals that we recommend for acceptance for council member positions. That is Pete Humes, Donna Hart, and Jenny Mayturn. The nominating committee worked hard to gather a list of folks to consider for appointment to the council, and these folks are open and willing and ready to serve. So we would love to have your support in approving them for the council. Ian, anything else I need to say?
Oh, we have a motion to approve. Okay.
All of them.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Any
Yes.
discussion?
Just from my perspective, I guess each of them have been talked about, time commitment, need for attendance, all that good stuff, right?
Yes,
Yeah, so
absolutely.
Oh, you're asking that.
Sorry, Ian, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I just say yes. They have generally kind of way that it works. These folks were all kind of referrals from folks that are currently on the council. So once we got those referrals as staff, we talked with him initially, had a conversation about what time commitment would look like. Obviously what the objectives are for Go Virginia, specifically for Region 6. And then they submit, which is, you should have 3 applications in your packet. They submit an application, just kind of giving you an idea of their background and their intent to commit to the group, why they want to be a part of the group. Then we have that conversation at the nominating committee, and then it comes up to you guys.
And Ian, just for the board's information, these folks will be either replacing or adding to the board. Is that correct in numbers? And how many vacancies will we continue to have with the appointment of the election of these 3 people to the board?
So we'll have 5 vacancies. This will bring us to 20 members. We can have up to 25. At least 50% of our membership has to be from the private sector. We had a few folks, and John, you know this because you're part of the nominating committee, but we had a few folks who were interested in joining the council. The timing of our meeting just kind of didn't align with them. In terms of us having kind of a full-on conversation with them about what their commitment would look like, and then getting those applications really are their formal, they are a formality that's required for them to join the council. So some of those folks weren't able to get those in, but we have a few other folks who would be strong candidates as well for the council. Going into next year, I believe it's April of next year, Kim McClellan and Lisa Hull will be rolling off. So that'll take us back down to 18.
Okay, so board members, we have some work to do to find some additional members for the board, particularly in advance of April, and a couple of our valuable members going off. So let's try to work at that if we could. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve do we have a motion on the floor to approve the 3 individuals nominated by the nominating committee?
I moved it.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Rob. Do I hear a second?
Joel seconded.
Joel seconded. Okay, Sarah, is this a roll call vote or just a voice
No,
vote?
just a voice
We
vote.
don't need a roll call.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting the report and the nominees from the nominating committee, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it appears the motion was approved unanimously. So you'll be reaching out to these folks and getting them acclimated to the board. Is that right, Sarah and Ian?
Yeah, so we'll have and Pete's actually on the call. I don't put him on the spot, but Pete is on the call. So their first official meeting will be our January meeting, which will be in Warsaw at RCC. We'll have either a group session with them or individual sessions with them to do onboarding. So
excellent. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to information items, and we're well ahead of the agenda schedule time. So we have 5 items for Ian to brief us on. We have plenty of time to do it today, Ian. So have at it.
yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but some of these really don't require us to kind of dig into that much. The Economic Development Summit, we have dates for that. Yes, thank you, Sarah. Sarah's very beautiful design. So kind of similar format to last year. Everything will be in Fredericksburg. So the 21st, we'll have a regional council meeting. We'll have the reception like we did last year. We're still trying to work out where we're going to do that. And then we'll have kind of like our half-day event the next day. So we're working through, Sarah and I have been workshopping names and themes for quite some time around the event. Obviously, welcome to any comments on that from you guys, but the event on the 22nd will be at the Jepson Center in Fredericksburg. So we're excited about that. We felt like we got off to a really good foot last year. Last year, as you guys recall, we really kind of focused specifically on Go Virginia investment areas, so site development, workforce development, and entrepreneurial ecosystem development. We really want this to be, we want to highlight Go Virginia, but we really want this to be kind of a convening for economic development, for all of economic development. So this year, we want to try to focus on things. We want to focus on Go Virginia, but also focus on things that are somewhat outside of the scope of Go Virginia. So potentially highlighting things like healthcare, housing, tourism. Again, we're still kind of working through some panels, but that's kind of what we want to do this year. Kind of, put a spotlight on those things that are more imperative to economic development than they've ever been, but not traditionally coupled with it. Our annual report. So this is just have this on there just as an FYI. It's in your packet. We're required by code to submit an annual report every year for our funding. I'll just highlight a few things. So in FY25, we funded $1,087,224 in projects. That was 2 planning projects. One of those was the business accelerator you just heard about. 2 of those were implementation projects, and 1 was the Aquaculture 2.0 project. We're partnering with Region 5. In terms of metrics, so I'm just going to go through some of these. There's a table at the end of the document that you can look at, but for projects that we closed out, so some of these include activity that goes back to FY23, but we created or filled 113 jobs as part of those projects, served over 240 businesses, released 22 new products. So new product release is a metric in the entrepreneurial ecosystem investment area. So those all came from either the Virginia Black Chambers Accelerator Program or the Riot Accelerator Program, which just recently closed out. We had the pre-accelerator with Riot as well as the accelerator led by the Stafford EDA. 13 new businesses created, $70,000 in capital raise. Again, those all relating back to those two accelerators. 1,106 students, teachers trained. What we mean by trained is going through a program that will lead to a credential or certification. So those are all those aren't necessarily all the folks who were certified, but those are the folks who went through those programs. 235 credentials awarded, 13 internships created, and 2 new programs created in the community college system. Other thing I'll highlight too, you guys have probably been seeing these in your emails, but we've been doing application sessions every quarter, really just to kind of, you know, get the word out about Go Virginia, talk to folks about how it's a resource. We use that, to kind of continue to build our project pipeline. That's something that we have to consistently do. And then B, just to kind of, you know, show folks that we are a resource in addition to other economic development resources. So we started those in 2023 and are continuing to do those. Our next one is November 7th in Fredericksburg. We move those throughout the region, but we do those quarterly. In terms of the per capita recapture, I mentioned this in the email that I sent to you all. And we had a lot of discussions about this, but last year, the General Assembly in developing the budget decided to recapture 28 million total from Go Virginia. So that's just from the Growth and Opportunity Fund, which includes all the per capita allocation for each of the regions, as well as the competitive fund, which is a separate pot of money. So they decided to recapture that 28 million. And then the state board passed a policy to proportionally recapture that from each region. So a little over 413,000 was recaptured from our region. And we came into the year, I know we were kind of talking about this at our July meeting, but we came into the year with a little over 1.4 million for projects. And that we haven't awarded any money this year, so that's kind of where we currently are with money that can go towards projects. Up to 250,000 of that 1.4 million can go towards planning grants. And that kind of gets into the financial report as well. So that's where we stand in terms of budget for per capita projects. And then project pipeline. So we actually just received 3 planning grant pre-applications. So one came from Cyberbytes. That's around creating an internship program for cybersecurity. One came from STEM EIC, which is a workforce development service provider in Planning District 16. That's going to be around after school programming. And then the final planning came from an organization called Revere. So their project is going to be a planning grant to assess the economic impact of having an incubator around water technology companies in the greater Fredericksburg area. We'll really need your all's input on those. If they all submit a final application, like I said, we only have 250,000 that we can allocate towards planning projects. Those 3 are each asking for $100,000, so they would take us over that allotted 250K. So we'll need your input. We're just now having kind of our initial conversations this week and next week with the applicants, and then we'll include you all in the work group sessions with them to review. 3 more projects, implementation projects. So we build it together. We've been working with the Fredericksburg Regional Alliance around workforce and credentialing related to data centers. These are primarily companies that would be part of that supply chain that would support data centers. So HVAC, welding, those sorts of things. There's kind of some canned programming that they've been kind of shopping around with some of the school divisions in Planning District 16. So that's in the pipeline. And then the smart community, at our July meeting, we had a presentation by Riot on the smart community test bed expansion. We've been talking with them about submitting an implementation project that would basically, it would be pretty similar to our coastal resiliency project, but would provide some support to entrepreneurs who are working in that smart community high-tech space. With the test bed as kind of the linchpin for those companies. And then we've been talking, you all know we funded 2 projects for the Fredericksburg Regional Chamber of Commerce, their Workforce Now initiative. We're not sure how viable this idea is, but we've been talking with them about expanding their programming out into the rural parts of Region 6. So they've kind of included the Northern Neck somewhat in their programming, but want to try to include the Northern Neck and Middle Peninsula, and then partner with Region 9, which is the greater Charlottesville area, and include Culpeper and Orange counties in Region 9. I think that's it. I don't think I have anything else.
All right, thank you, Ian. Good report overall. Any questions from board members concerning the information items on the agenda?
Rob has his hand raised.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just a quick question, observation. Ian, I think you and the rest of the staff deserve some kudos on this. For the content, but it's actually in English. So it's really easy to understand exactly what was done. And I frequently find that the grant applications and all the rest of the stuff is written in Go Virginia jargon, economic development jargon, hard to figure out what it really means. I would love to have a statement at the beginning of every one of them that is like the kind of language you use in this report. So it's a great report. We've done a lot. You guys have done a lot, but I really appreciate the fact that it's written in a style and language that's easy for people to understand. And I think that actually helps us outside Go Virginia, not just the board members, but other people understand what we do.
Thank you.
And I would say, Ian, that, that report the annual report is a great report. I'm going to distribute it to our Board of Supervisors and to the Economic Development Authority members so that they can better understand what Go Virginia is doing as well, because they won't get online and look for it, but I know that it will help them understand what we're doing and how we're trying to improve Middle Peninsula, Northern Neck, and Region 16. I also appreciate, as chair, the email that you sent out briefing the board in simple terms about what's on the agenda. Really do. Okay, any additional questions or comments from the board?
John, the only, my 2 cents before you go to that state meeting is it's probably easier to just say it versus respond to an email. If there could be better clarity on what's being required. I get the feeling that some of the stuff we send up the state board might be like a jump ball, whether it's going to get approved or not. And so I think, in my world, I wouldn't have commercial lending officers come into loan committee all the time feeling like it was a jump ball. We have, obviously you can go off the reservation, but a little tighter parameters on what's looking for. And then part 2 of that is, I think when something gets kicked back to us, from an iterative perspective, to share, what the reason why it was either denied or whatever, and, what's the teachable moment from that.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
We have a Charles iPad. I think I know who that is.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Chip, not Charles. If I could
Chip.
mention, I am wonderful and got good news and with the kudos towards Ian and Sarah, because I think it will play into as the Go Virginia Council works towards the next G&D plan. Ian and Sarah we did get word that we received a grant from the Economic Development Administration of $50,000. Ian was able to secure a match of $50,000 from our 5 jurisdictions for a comprehensive economic development strategy. That will go, I think, a long way in supporting the growth and diversification plan for Go Virginia. And we'll be working on that in the next 12 months. But it's something our region has never had. And so Ian and Sarah both did a great job and over a year, probably close to 2 years, to try to secure this money for us.
Well, that's great news, Chip. We have that down here in the Middle Peninsula, but implementing it is another thing. That's the key. Is once you got the plan, is to follow up and get it done. But I'm real pleased for that area, because that area, having worked up there, is a very disparate area as far as attitudes towards which direction you want to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Any additional comments, information to bring before the board?
I'll just say one more thing. You guys probably don't remember this, or maybe don't even know this, but you approved me to participate in the Virginia Rural Leadership Institute, and I'll just say thank you. I'm sometimes a little reluctant to participate in professional development opportunities because I don't think that they're all valuable, but this one, I'll just say from a personal perspective, is valuable, but more so from a community development, economic development perspective is super valuable. So I'm working with a gentleman, which also dovetails with Go Virginia. His name's Lincoln Boykin. He runs a community foundation for the Upper Tidewater. And as part of VRLI, we have to have a community impact project. And our project is going to be focused around workforce housing in the Northern Neck and Middle Peninsula. So we're trying to develop a blueprint, basically, that localities can kind of use, focusing more on financial resources, workforce housing, that there's not a lot of funding for what we consider to be workforce housing. So we're just trying to provide a resource for folks that they can kind of take and adopt. We've been working with our mentors are Brian Horn with DHCD and Chris Thompson with Virginia Housing. So we've been working, the state's also working on this. So we're doing something that's complementary to them. So we hope that's really impactful, and it's really good to see. We talk about workforce all the time. Well, we can't really train folks if there's nowhere for them to live. So we're excited about that. So just want to thank you guys for that and mention that it's been a meaningful experience.
And Ian, isn't the Fed the driver of that program, Federal Reserve? Am I correct or not?
It's so that's a separate program, which is also a really great program. So it's the Virginia Rural Center that that program is housed under.
Great, thank you.
And Ian, that's very timely. We've been hung up on a workforce development housing project here in Middlesex County for a couple of years because of gaps in funding. So, any support that can be given, direction can be given, would be very helpful, because it's a real need in rural areas in Middle Peninsula and Northern Neck. Okay, any additional comments or questions?
I think Vernon has a question or comment.
I didn't see that. I'm sorry. Vernon, I'm sorry. Apologize for that.
No problem, sir. I really just wanted to piggyback on what Ian was saying here. Over the last few months, I also sit on another board which concentrates on affordable housing, the Exodus program, and they have 16 acres of land that they are trying to develop into affordable housing, primarily for teachers and firefighters and people in these areas. We are currently partnered with the Central Virginia Housing Authority, Habitat for Humanity, and the Exodus group to do fundraising. I donated some Commander Suite tickets to each of those organizations to auction out. And those fundraisers have just starting to kick off this week. So as you said, there's not a lot of money available for these initiatives. And so I think that industry getting involved and helping out is a great way to support this very needed capability in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Vernon. Anybody else wish to provide any input?
Sorry,
All right.
one final thing, John, real quick. This is something
Okay.
that's related to affordable housing. We just don't really get to interact that much. So to give you guys an idea of like what Sarah and I are doing, that can be kind of outside of this sometimes. What Sarah has, so each region has a ready region, which is kind of a leader for childcare. Childcare is obviously as significant as affordable housing and all these other things that allow us to exist and go to work. But Sarah is really a leader in our region around this conversation. Well, when I say our ready region for Planning District 16 includes more kind of Fredericksburg, Northern Virginia. But she's kind of a leader in this conversation and has really helped to kind of shine a light on this. Has even kind of spearheaded some conversations from the Go Virginia perspective at DHCD. Which obviously, if you think about Go Virginia's never talked about healthcare, we sure as hell never talked about childcare. So I just want to mention that to you guys. Just to kind of toot her horn, but then also because of the significance of childcare and the lack of childcare in the region.
Okay, thank you.
Happy to talk about it with anybody anytime.
I would love to talk to you about, thank you, Mr. Chairman, because you just mentioned Ready Region going north. But as you know, the Ready region that incorporates the Northern Neck and the Middle Peninsula stretches from Colonial Beach to the organization that I'm on the board of in Newport News that tries to manage it. And it kind of got thrust upon us by the state, to save the world as we know it, but with no funding whatsoever. And they are now rebidding and reevaluating who is going to be a part of those. First Spark is putting in a presentation to remain, but there are two others as well, including Child Development Resources here on the peninsula. But any conversations we could have with you and work you can do to help us strengthen the Middle Peninsula and Northern Neck side of this effort, because it's just unwieldy. It is super difficult to manage and handle, and so much important work needs to be done. So thank you both for the work you're doing on it, period. And if we could expand those conversations depending upon how this new proposal goes, I think that'd be great for everybody. So thank you both very much.
I would encourage everyone to look at the Virginia Business Roundtable on early education. The Ready Regions are a part of that, and it's spearheaded by the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation. But it's trying to get businesses and private industry involved in the conversation around workforce, how to retain and attract talent, workforce, create a pipeline by realizing that childcare is a part of that. So they're doing a lot. I know they've reached out to all the Go Virginia regions. I know VEDP and VIPSI is a part of that conversation and that roundtable as well. So if anyone wants more information, please feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to provide that. And Joel has his hand raised.
Yep. Joel?
Yeah. Good morning. Thanks for everyone's comments. Obviously, there's a lot of people involved in a lot of different things. Critically important for us to continue to move forward. I was just going to let everyone know, if you weren't already aware, that the Rappahannock River Region Entrepreneurial Ecosystem, or as I call it, the R2E2, has officially launched with Mike Perillo. It is not an organization that's trying to also solve everyone else's, collective sort of challenges, but it is an organization that's trying to be a dot connector. So if you haven't met Mike Perillo, or if you want to have more information about R2E2, please reach out to me. Please reach out to Mike directly. Essentially what's happening is that there's a lot of great work being done. And as entrepreneurs, as investors, as new businesses, as people who want to start businesses, move to the area, we want to have a sort of a belly button for these people to go and get information and go to the right organizations for whatever their requirements are. So just want to put that out there for everyone's consideration.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Any additional thoughts, comments for the good of the board or for economic development in Go Virginia Region 6? Well, thank you all for being in attendance today. I know it takes a good chunk of time out of your day to not only come to the meeting, but also to prepare for the meeting. And these meetings are having greater and greater value. As you can see, we're kind of diversifying our discussion a little bit among some, and which is good because economic development is more than just job training or industrial site development. So anything that we can do to work with our elected officials, our appointed officials in our localities to support them and provide them information, which is hard to get, like childcare, childcare needs, like workforce housing needs, I think is extremely helpful to them in building a more diverse and well-rounded economic development program. So our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, January 27th at the Warsaw campus of Rappahannock Community College. If we don't chat before then, have happy holidays, have a good remainder of the year, and thanks for attending today. Good meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.